indeterminable mixture of different spirits that I had. Let's see. Let's see if I can remember. I put some Tia Lupita in there, which is like a coffee liqueur. I put some Baileys in there. What else did I put? I put some Goldschlager, which is like a cinnamon liqueur.
Oh.
So it's almost like a Christmassy drink. It's way too late for that, but I wanted a sweeter drink, but I didn't want a fruity drink, so I just kind of poured those things in there. I didn't really measure anything out. I just kind of like filled it with ice and then kind of put things in there until it was a drink.
Is there anything that's not alcoholic in it?
Nah, dude, there's no mixers. It was straight up all alcohol.
So this is some Long Island iced tea adjacent thing with just different types of alcohol, huh?
Yeah, it's like a more creamy iced tea, Long Island iced tea. It's like a Long Island coffee, maybe.
Okay.
Sometimes it calls for it, all right?
That just sounds like a lot. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, it feels like a lot. It feels like a lot. But here I am, haha.
Here you are, gonna talk
Mm-hmm.
about some video games, haha.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some video games, Neil. There's been a lot of news that came out.
There
But
has been.
before we get into that, oh no, you got
No,
it.
go for it.
Well,
I was just gonna say video games hello.
yes, video games. Hello, everybody. Good call. Gotta greet everyone proper. But I actually had a non-video game thing I wanted to get out of the way.
Oh, okay. Well, before we do that, thank
Oh.
you for listening to the Audio Games Podcast, everybody. I'm Neil.
And I'm Matt. I mean, that you said that like we were ending the podcast already. You're like, thank you for listening.
Yeah, it was perfect. 2
No.
minutes in and out. We got this.
Yeah, I remember that part where I said I wanted to talk about video games. Oh, well. Guess we're not doing that one this time. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. It's been fun.
So what was this non-video game thing?
Oh, well, I was having a discussion with my girlfriend, and for some reason we were on pork rinds, okay? So you know what a pork rind is, right?
Yeah, like the fried ones, right?
Yeah, it's like pigskin. It's basically like a football. Yeah. It's a deep fried football. But she was asserting that because pigs are hairy, that pork rinds, like, where do the hairs go? Like, do they wax the pigs? Do they shave them before they make a pork rind?
I would assume that it just burns off.
Yeah, that's what I said. But I guess different pigs have different kinds of fur, right? So.
Well, yeah, but they're not making pork rinds out of like wild boars with the thick fur.
That's literally what I said. But she was like, I don't know, maybe it like melts into the pork rind and like you're eating like melted pig hair. And I'm like, whatever, more protein. But I don't actually eat pork rinds, so it didn't really bother me that much talking about it. Sorry if you eat pork rinds, but it was something that she wanted to hear your opinion about. So
well, I'm a little shocked that apparently we said the same things about it.
Yeah, I was like, it's not made of like wild boar. They're not going out and hunting boars to make pork rinds. It's like
they're just using like regular pigs that are farm grown.
Regular babe ass pig. You know, it's just they like if you were to draw the pig, you wouldn't bother drawing the little tufts of hair on it. It's just a pig.
Yeah, just a pink pig.
Just a pink, baby smooth pig. Delicious. Anyway, now we can talk about video games.
Video games.
Where are we starting? Like, here's what I have in my list in terms of talking about stuff. Sony's business plan falling apart. Nintendo Switch 2. We got a couple of cancellations. And the Xbox developer presentation.
That did happen. I mean, if we want to kick off with the news, why don't we start with the Switch 2?
Sure. Yeah, finally.
Hey, guess what? Remember like 4 years ago when they said, hey, a Switch 2 is coming?
Yeah.
It's finally been technically announced.
Yeah, we don't even know if there's like a working. Well, there's got to be a working prototype because they have to be giving stuff out to like people who are developing for it, right?
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but like they showed like essentially what the consumer model is going to look like, and I gotta say, Neil, like it doesn't seem very Nintendo of them.
To
Like
just
every
make another Switch?
yeah, it's the idea of just not iterating meaningfully on the console that was successful, right? Like even the DS became the 3DS and had the 3D stuff. And I know they didn't use the 3D stuff that much like in actual practice, but like they were doing things differently at least.
So you're not counting the DSi?
The DSi is not a new generation. This is a new generation.
Okay, okay.
Like the DSi is like the 1.5.
Would you say that there was substantial, meaningful iteration between the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube?
Um well,
Like the
I,
form factor of the controller, wildly different. You don't got that three-pronged alien thing anymore. But as far as like what they were doing with the system, it was
yeah, I
pretty much
mean,
just more power. That was it.
yeah, no, that's exactly what it is, Neil. And what can we say about the GameCube?
I loved it.
Okay, but I'm glad that you did, but to be honest, it was not very successful.
Comparatively, yes, it was one of their less successful outings.
Right.
I
So,
mean,
well, let's actually talk about what we saw.
sure.
I think it's important to like review it and kind of weigh in about the different things that they actually did. Um, Main thing is that it's bigger. It's just a bigger Switch, bigger
Hmm.
screen, bigger Joy Cons. They changed like how the Joy Cons connect. Like it's more of like a magnetic thing, it seems, rather than a rail, and that is kind of worrisome, honestly. Like I don't know how strong these magnets are.
Mm. I feel like there's probably more than just the magnets. They probably do clip in some fashion, and to you have to press something to release them.
Hmm. Okay.
But I'm just guessing. Because I agree, just magnets doesn't feel like you'd want to hold the Switch and play with it on like a bus or something if someone bumping you the wrong way would just make one of the Joy Cons fall out and your Switch fall to the floor, you know?
Yeah, or like if you like take it out of your backpack and you're not paying attention, and then like you go someplace with it, and then you realize, oh, I left one of my Joy Cons somewhere else. Like
Hmm.
that would be so annoying. But okay, so that's the crux of it, right? It's the Nintendo Switch, but again, it's slightly bigger. It's got different Joy Cons. It's got a USB-C connectivity on both the bottom and the top, which I think was certainly a welcome addition, but it's not exactly innovative. Like the idea is you want to be able to plug things into it when it's docked, because the bottom one is for the dock, and the top one is for things plugged in while you have the dock.
Hmm. I
What
mean,
else?
I guess the other things that it had was an implication, at least, and some weird reporting that there might be a way to use the new Joy Cons like mice.
Yeah, yeah. So you could still use the Joy Cons kind of like Wiimotes. They just weren't very accurate.
Hmm.
And I can see them implementing that in a way that lets you use the Joy Cons like a mouse. But like the video that they showed didn't really make it very implicit. It just I that could just be taken as a stylistic way of just like showcasing the Joy Cons. Like
True.
I didn't see any like movement of a cursor or anything like one to one with the movement of those Joy Cons. Yes, they were sliding around like a pair of ice skates, but like what does that actually mean? Like come on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, I do welcome the idea of being able to use the Joy Cons as a mouse because that would be very useful for games like, I don't know, Splatoon. Like
I
I
hadn't
would
even thought about it for a game like Splatoon.
like that would be wonderful for a game like Splatoon. Like imagine how much more sweaty it could be if you could use mouse controls inherently. There are people who have bought like these $200 devices that let you hook up a mouse to your Switch and have it like interpreted correctly to play Splatoon. So having that
True.
native, huh?
Truly, the only way I've been thinking about it is like, oh, that would make creating a level in Mario Maker way more smooth, or you know, ports of point and click adventure games are going to feel a lot better if you can play them that way.
Bro, you weren't even thinking about the FPS.
I was not even
Think of Metroid.
remotely thinking about it.
Think of Metroid 4, which is inevitably coming out on the Switch 2 now, and not the Switch. Come on.
Yeah, but the Metroid Prime games are about the lock on anyway, so you weren't a mouse aiming isn't a thing you need.
Yeah, but you can do either. And you know what? That would explain the delay a little bit, like if they're trying to implement these stupid gimmicky controls. Um
Sure.
so so yeah, the my crux issue with the Nintendo Switch 2 is that it's not gimmicky enough. And I know that sounds weird, but like everything about Nintendo consoles has been like you need to stand out in your hardware in a way that isn't leveraging just raw power, and it seems like they're just kind of leveraging more power, not even like competitive power. The rumors that I've heard were that it's going to be slightly more powerful than a Steam Deck, which is, we live in a world where there's a lot more handheld options out there now.
Yeah.
um I mean, I know that the average consumer of video games might not be privy to that whole world out there, but there's so much out there now. And when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, like we don't know what other things are going to be available, but like one of the things about the Steam Deck is that it can handle a lot of Nintendo Switch games. And that probably didn't make Nintendo very happy based on how they responded to all the showcases of those sorts of things. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that part of the reason they're showing off the Switch 2 is because they need to get ahead of a lot of competition, but also I think that they didn't really want to show it, if I'm being honest. I think that there were a lot of leaks and a lot of pressure to like finally show something. In fact, at the end of the Nintendo Switch 2 teaser, they gave a date for a later one where they're actually going to talk about it, right? I
And
don't
presumably actually show us some games other than
the
maybe a new Mario Kart, maybe just
okay.
another Mario Kart 8.
We also need to talk about that. Okay,
Uh-huh.
not the Donkey Kong design. I know that's been talked to death, back and forth across the entire internet. But how do you iterate on Mario Kart, right? Like Mario Kart 8, like the port of it to the Switch, and then the 2-track DLCs. Like, what do you do now? I have ideas, but what would you do, Neil? I want to hear what your ideas are for a new Mario Kart.
I honestly have no idea. I feel like it's in a really similar situation to like Smash Brothers Ultimate, where, hey, you basically put everything from every Mario Kart into this thing. You put every character into Smash. The next iteration of this is going to feel like less.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people already felt that way about Animal Crossing for the Switch.
Yeah.
New Horizons, like they were like, well, New Leaf was way better because New
Hmm.
Leaf did have more shit. So yeah, they're having a very Nintendo problem right now. What I would do is and I know you hate this answer, Neil, but they should make it an open world Mario Kart.
Oh, God.
Like, sure, you could play it like classically, where you just kind of select the tracks, but like, you could run around as Mario, like a 3D Mario game, and like explore, but also you can get in your cart and drive around.
Oh, I thought you meant driving around the whole time like Burnout Paradise, but with Mario Kart.
I mean, that could work too, I think. I mean, they had Diddy Kong
Pull up to
Racing.
the stoplight and suddenly a bunch of people show up for a sweet race.
Yeah, man. Just drop in play.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
so yeah, I think that there could be interesting things that they could do with Mario Kart. I don't know if they're brave enough to do it. I think they didn't really have a choice but to try and innovate, at least in their games, if they're not going to innovate in their console. But the other thing
Well,
that I
okay.
want to bring up. Okay, no, go ahead.
No, no, okay, okay. Here's one thing for me though. And I know, like, yes, it's weird Nintendo's not iterating, but like you mentioned, there's a Steam Deck, now there's like the ROG Ally, there's all these essentially copycats of the Switch, and they have become wildly popular. Not just the Switch is still massively popular, but Steam Decks and stuff really caught on in a way that, like, the Steam machines from a decade ago really didn't. And at a certain point, you kind of have to look at that and go, like, this is a market people are still wanting more of. We hit something right for the consumer today. So it makes a lot of sense that they would try to continue that.
Sure, but like this goes against the whole pathos or ethos. I forget which one it is. That Nintendo does, where it's like they don't want to compete. The idea is
Mm-hmm.
they carve out their own niche and they live in it, and they don't worry about what other people are doing. But if they've postured themselves as this is the Switch but more powerful, then they're going to be coming up against so much competition, and
Yeah.
I don't think that will be good for them. Um, but I can only speculate. The other thing that I was thinking about that might make it stand out is if they actually bother doing different attachments. Okay, like the thing about the Switch
Like
that I
light
was
guns and shit.
well, okay. So when the Switch came out, they were like showing the Joy Cons and like how they connect to the console. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I'm sure they're going to come up with all sorts of like little things you could attach to it instead of just the Joy Cons. And then they didn't. It was just the Joy Cons. Like for people, like they literally when they came out with the
How
Switch Lite, they're like, let's not remove this Joy Cons at all. Let's just have them fixed there because it was so unimportant to their development at that point. They're like, it doesn't matter if you can take them off or on. Like, if they
I'll
really
I'll
want
give you
that,
the Switch Lite there, but how dare you
okay,
besmirch the Ring Fit Adventure Ring?
okay. Well, that's less you slot something into the console, and more you slot the Joy Cons into a piece of plastic.
Fair, fair.
So what I'm thinking is like, why not have like an attachment that's like a stylus, so that you can actually use the touch connectivity of the console in a way that's more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you already have a mouse thing going on with your Joy Cons, then I'm not saying make a Nintendo OS, but like if you want to compete in the space, like they're basically little miniature computers, your competition. If you have you called it a ROG ally. Ew, first of all, it's ROG ally. Um, but if you have like one of
Well, I mean,
those,
if we want to get technical, it's a Republic of Gamers ally.
okay. Well, either way, like these are little computers. Like you can run Linux on Steam natively on the Steam Deck, and then the Ally I think comes with Windows installed. And so, with the amount of power that these things have, you can use them basically as a little computer.
Yeah.
I don't. That's going to be a place of depreciation on Nintendo's part, where they're going to be trying to compete with these different machines, and it's just not going to have the same functionality. Like, sure, you can show you using a Joy-Con as a mouse, but like, what does that mean if you're not actually like able to use it as a little computer?
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, you have to find some sort of other meaningful functionality for that. And yeah, there is some case use, uh, for it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I just feel like that's going to get copycatted by whatever the next generation is, and it's going to be like, wow, this is so much more useful on this instead of a Nintendo Switch too.
Well, the thing that I am the most disappointed with is they didn't have a use case shown in their little teaser this time of whipping out your Switch 2 on a roof party like the original one.
Yeah,
So,
I
I
mean that
guess you
might.
can't use the new one for parties on a rooftop with any of your friends. So, fuck it, it's not as good.
Well, I mean, I think that might be coming in the follow-up presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that the rooftop is very symbolic because it's the opposite of a basement. If you showed in a basement, you're implying you don't have any friends. If you showed on a rooftop, you're implying you have all of the friends.
And
So,
if you showed in a white void like they did, they're implying that you can only play it in the Matrix.
Okay. Anyway, so why don't we talk about, since we're talking about companies specifically, let's go ahead and move on to the Xbox developer presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Overall feelings, Jill. Let's just give our overall feelings here.
I think South of Midnight still looks pretty cool. In a dark fantasy Kenna Bridge of Spirits way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think South of Midnight is probably the most interesting thing. Extremely long-winded presentation.
God, yeah.
Um, so the first game they showed was Ninja Gaiden 4, which is, it's a Ninja Gaiden game. And that's kind of like why I feel like that it started to feel long-winded almost immediately. Like they were not only showing the same clips over and over of the gameplay, but they were trying to talk about a Ninja Gaiden game as if it was a new thing. But it's a Ninja Gaiden game. What do you want? Like there's nothing new about it that really, I mean, nothing meaningfully new that I saw that's like, wow, this is so different than the last Ninja Gaiden game.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be tough as balls. I'm sure they're going to have a bunch of new types of weapons and stuff to try to do your silly stuff with. It's going to be one of those games.
Yeah. And then they've had a camera crew go out to all these developers and just shot so much B-roll, and it's just like dramatic shots of like them in like silhouette with like a underlight coming out, and it's just like, why are you making them seem like they're protagonists in some sort of drama film? Like, talk about the game. But then you realize they can't not do that, because if they showed the same clips anymore, it would be so easy to just point out, wow, you showed the clip of Ryu Hayabusa decapitating someone 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, I'm not saying Ninja Gaiden's bad. I'm not saying that studio's bad, but boy, could they have like done that in maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Well,
So then
there
they,
is one thing Ninja Gaiden related that I do think was bad, and not because I think Ninja Gaiden itself is bad or anything like that. I enjoyed some of those games back on like the 360, but all of these Microsoft developer check-ins or spotlights or whatever the fuck they call them always have a like surprise type thing, which or at least something they don't say right off the bat, like we're going to talk about blank.
hmm,
And this time it was Ninja Gaiden Black 2 or Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. I don't, is the black subtitle or
I
I
feel
don't.
like grammatically it should probably be black too, but either way.
That was their like surprise announcement on this one, and the fact that it was, hey, this is coming out today is cool. But the fact that it's a remaster of a like 15-year-old game rather than like here's a game that either we announced but you haven't seen anything of yet, or like this is the first announcement of something coming way later this year. Uh this was nowhere near as hype inducing or exciting as seeing something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so obviously it's not the only thing they showed though. They also showed South of Midnight, like we talked about. Game still looks good. Again, way too much B-roll of your developers pointing at things on screens like you told them to in the shot. Like no one, I don't think anybody in that studio ever looks like that when they're working, where they like smile and nod at each other and then point at something on a screen. Like, come on, I don't believe it. But the game looks good. I like the idea of the setting. I think that it's not a very well explored setting in terms of our medium of video games. So it's good to see something that feels fresher. And also the
Mm-hmm.
presentation is good, and I think that it would be a good game. I think this is going to be, I need people to give it a chance. And honestly, with the other things that were shown, it's certainly the game that I would play. Um so I'm not going to linger on South of Midnight too long, but I do want to get to Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Yes.
Uh this game looks so French. This is the most French game I've ever fucking witnessed with my two eyeballs. Like maybe it's hard to like quantify that in our audio medium here, our little podcast, but like it's kind of like I imagine if Cirque du Soleil put out an JRPG. That's what this game would be.
It's like if you took the triplets of Belleville and tried to distill it into a modern video game.
Kind of. Like everything about it was just so French. And I wish I could explain it better. Like, okay, so the thing that I hated the most about the Claire Obscure Expedition 33 presentation was at some point one of the developers was like, we wrote the characters to be relatable, but then like not long after, one spouts out the line, "What are the stars whispering to you?" And another character replies, "Actually, I'm the one whispering to them." I'm sorry, what? What kind
Are you
of
saying
writing
you
is
never
that?
go out at like 3 in the morning and just stare up at the sky and try to talk to the stars because there's no one talking to you at home?
No, I'm not saying I don't do that, but if someone came up to me and asked me what they were whispering to me, I wouldn't reply, "I'm the one whispering to them." Like what the fuck? That's so I'm sorry.
Look,
I'm sorry, French people,
it's
but that's
fine. I
cringe.
I hear what you're saying.
That's cringe
I actually
as shit.
really really like the way Expedition 33 looks. If it was not the kind of game it is, I would be jumping in on it. But I know for a fact, I know myself, I don't have a good track record with getting through turn-based RPGs. And I am sure I would burn out on that and never get through it, or get through it like 5 years from now,
Yeah.
after taking a years and years break in the middle of it.
Yeah, and then not remembering what the story beats were.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, not a game for me, but I actually do really like the way that game is looking and presenting, and I am interested to hear and see how it gets talked about once it comes out and people start saying, hey, this is cool, or holy shit, this is pretentious.
It doesn't even seem pretentious. It just seems like it. I don't know. I don't want to say like it's like written by lizard people because that's not the case. But like just the airship replacement is like a fucking Baymax, but way more French. It's like a French Baymax. I'm sorry. That's just what it's what that's the impression it gives me. It's just
Mm-hmm.
French.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Claire Obscure. I'm sorry. It's anyway. Doom: The Dark Ages. Sure,
Do do you like Doom 2016? Cool. It's another one of those kinda, but this time you have a shield. We added
yeah.
parry mechanics.
They spoke about it like, oh man, if Doom 2016 was like a run and gun, and if Doom Eternal was like a fast paced like dodge fest, then the Dark Ages you play as a tank. And I don't know if that's like a good sell, honestly, because I don't know. I just feel like the adrenaline of what Doom is more leans into mobility. I'm not saying that the game didn't look like you had a lot of mobility, but pitching it as like you play as a tank, I don't know. It's not for everybody. Like how many people pick tank when you're playing a cooperative game? Everybody wants to jump on the DPS.
God, so true. Fucking Marvel Rivals, god damn it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, if you like Doom, there's your Doom. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's Doom. So yeah, overall pretty disappointing showing from Xbox. I it
Here's the thing though. They gave actual dates for all these games, and they are all first half of this year. I'm not going to be shocked when one or two of them gets pushed to like a holiday release instead. But I feel like this is maybe one of the most, hey, these are actually coming up, one of these presentations we've had in a while, where a lot of times these things end up being. Maybe I'm just jaded because I remember Senua 2 feeling like they showed it at these events like 4 times,
Yeah,
and
no, they
it
showed it
kept
like three
never
Game
actually
Awards.
coming out.
Well, I mean, yes, I'm glad that there's. I don't know. So yes, I'm glad that these games are coming out relatively soon, but I'm not looking forward to them.
Hmm.
I like maybe South of Midnight. Like I want to play that one, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna buy that as a day one thing.
Sure.
Even on Game Pass. Even on Game Pass.
Well,
Um,
then you don't have to buy it, sort of.
well, you kind of do. You kind of don't.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So, I mean, what can you tell me about what's going on with Sony? Do you know what's going on with Sony?
A little bit. Sony really, really wanted to get into games as a service. This is something they kind of tried to implement about 4 years ago, I want to say. They were like, hey, we're doing a big shift. This is why games like, what was it, Helldivers 2
Yeah.
got like funded by them and stuff. And Helldivers 2 succeeded.
Yep.
Uh, Concord really, really didn't. Maybe the biggest flop of any video game ever, as far as I can think.
Certainly,
Oh,
as a service game, probably the biggest flop of a service game
yeah.
ever. I
I,
don't know
I
about.
guess if we want to talk about like the '80s and destroying the video game market with ET or whatever, like, okay, maybe that was worse, but yeah, this was fucking bad. Um, and Sony really got cold feet because of this, and decided that they wanted to, one, pivot away from live service games, which is probably good. Like, hey, guess what, Sony? People who love your games aren't looking for live service. They're playing your single player narrative focused things because that's what they want, and you are the one company still really making these.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
and
remember. I don't remember if it was documents that were like part of a shareholder meeting that were like publicly released, or if they were like leaked documents. But
mm,
essentially, like their business model going into 2025, as originally planned, was like a 40-60 split, where 60% of their development was supposed to be going to games as a service, and 40% was going towards traditional quote unquote games. And like they have like 12 games as a service things in development, which
yeah,
is just a fucking idiotic thing to do. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but like you're already going into an extremely competitive space. You know, you can like going up against your League of Legends, your Fortnites, your I mean, even Marvel Rivals at this point. Going into that environment and trying to fit 12 of your own games into that, like people only have so much time to be playing your games as a service games. Okay?
and on top of that, some of the games that they were working on, we got a little bit of info about. For example, uh, I believe it was Bluehole were the ones that they had working on this, but a God of War live service game of some kind.
Yes.
Y'all can't all play Kratos. What the fuck are they? What would you have been making out of this? Like,
I don't know. I don't know what
neither
that
do
looks
I.
like.
And I know a lot of people were very disappointed about that because Bluehole, for those who don't remember, is the team that did the Demon Souls remake right when the PlayStation 5 came out.
Right.
And people really liked that remake and were crossing their fingers, stomping their feet, clapping their hands, saying, please put Bluehole on a Bloodborne remake.
Right.
Because, god damn it, they want Bloodborne so bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so to find out, no, they've spent the last 3 years working on a God of War live service game that got canceled and nobody wanted anyway is like, fuck, dude. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, yes, from a fan standpoint, it's a tragedy because they're taking all of these resources and putting them towards things that no one's going to inevitably care about in a year or two, even if initially it seems like it has legs, right?
Hmm.
Um, but again, like 12 titles at that point, like when you're trying to fit that into one environment, you're competing with yourself. Like you're literally having a hydra trying to cannibalize each other's heads, because like you are competing for the player's money like on a regular basis when you're doing these games as a service, and people only got so much money, man.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be dropping the digital deluxe release version and then spending another $20 on a battle pass and then buying this cosmetic and then turning around and doing that for 11 more games. Like that's best case scenario. All 12 of your games release and like last for any amount of time. That doesn't mean that your player base is going to be able to accommodate 12 games, even if they want to. It's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense on either particular arena, but whether you're a fan, a consumer, or if you are in the business side. And Shuhei Yoshida, he was the president of Sony Interactive, or the former president of Sony Interactive, actually kind of jumped ship right before all this happened. And I think that he kind of sensed this. And he was actually weighing in on a Bloodborne port. I don't know if you saw this news, but people
No, I
were
missed
asking him,
this.
okay, so Shuhei Yoshida, like he had an interview where people were like, "Hey, how come you guys didn't do Bloodborne?" And he did not talk about the games as a service like detracting resources. Certainly it did, but what he said was that the director of Bloodborne, it was kind of like his passion project, and if it was going to get remade, he would have to be the one to work on it. So
Mm,
I don't think that Bluehole was ever an option on that, which might have been why they got put on a different project. Um,
I see. I mean,
but
that makes sense, but
this is what I consider to be a growing pain. I think that the right now the gaming space is learning, now that this games as a service bubble is popping, that maybe the focus needs to be on things more like Astrobot, you know,
mhm.
more reasonably priced development for games that are satisfying even if they don't live on forever and a half. I mean, so we have a cancellation of a pretty higher profile game. I don't know if you saw this, but Multiverses has a cancellation date, or a it's has an end date of service.
Yes,
It's
I
shutting
did see
down.
that. I think that was today that I saw that, in fact.
Yeah, it news dropped today. They're doing
Surprise, that game never really got its community back after they took it offline for 9 months.
yeah, not a great idea. Uh, it had a really great beta. People were really into it when it was in its beta,
Yeah.
and then it went cold for a very long time. But I believe that we're coming up on season 5 of Multiverses, and then they pre-announced that after that it's over.
Yeah.
So
And that's going to be in the summer, like this year.
yeah, this was the game where you could be Ultra Instinct Shaggy. Like they really leaned in to a lot of like things that fans liked or
The
had been,
memes.
and you know the developers who worked on this were very passionate about it. So it's a shame, but this is part of what I'm talking about. Like games as a service is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I hope that all studios learn from this error. Like if you didn't learn from what happened with Concord, I don't know what's going to teach you, but look to the games that are just complete. You know, you put them out and you don't have to worry
Mhm.
about them ever again.
Well,
Um,
there is one more cancellation that I feel like we should talk about. Not games as a service, but one that I know you and I were both personally looking forward to.
yeah, Earthblade.
Earthblade, extremely okay games, I believe, is what they were calling themselves at the time.
Yeah,
These were the people behind Celeste. The next game that they had announced was Earthblade. It was being talked about like it was probably going to be more of a Metroid style game. We didn't get a lot of details, but things weren't going well. They put out a blog post basically saying, hey, some of the major creatives in our studio were having a bit of a falling out. The pressure of trying to live up to the success of Celeste with our next game was really detracting from what they felt like they were able to do and what they were making with Earthblade. And with a major developer departing, splitting ways with the others, they said it's probably better for us to refocus, reassess what kind of scope we actually want to look at for games and try something new.
yeah. I mean, in general, it just seems like they lost passion for what they were working on. They kind of they had a lot of like great ideas that just weren't coalescing, and they were like, I'm not feeling this no more. And I mean, it's not simply because of that. There were other things going on. There was some interpersonal fallout within the studio, over, I believe, a difference of opinion on who had the rights to the artwork of Celeste. I'm not really sure what that means. Like, are we talking about like key art? Are we talking about likenesses? Are we just talking about like art that got posted on the Instagram? Like, I don't know what that really means, but it wasn't described further than that. Um, so yeah, I forget the name of the person, but they had a falling out, so they split, and then after that, there was a lot of reassessing of the project, and they decided they didn't really want to go on with it.
Which is really too bad. That was definitely one of the games on my list of, hey, what am I looking forward to this year? Um, so damn,
Yeah, now I
but
don't know if they're gonna have anything coming out this year.
probably not. But speaking of looking forward to things, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about things we are looking forward to.
Yes, I need optimism in my life, Neil.
Totally.
I want things to motivate me to make it through the year.
Well,
Um,
there's one that I was looking forward to, but I don't have to look forward to anymore because it apparently came out today, and I did not
oh,
realize that they had announced that.
what's
But
that?
Citizen Sleeper 2 is
Oh
out.
yeah.
Um, I really liked that first game way more than I thought I would. I had it as a number two the year I played it on my list, but looking back at all my lists this year when I was moving everything over to a Tumblr page just so it was still somewhere for people to look at, I think I probably should have switched it and made it number one and my number one, number two for that year.
Hmm.
Because it has stuck with me uh, really well. That first game is fucking great. Um, so I was looking forward to that, and I don't have to look forward to it anymore. I get to fucking start it. Probably this weekend, in fact.
Hooray! Now
Hooray!
you'll and now you have nothing to look forward to.
Not true. I am also very much looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds out next month.
Yep, that's on the
Or
top of my list.
I guess this month by the time this comes out now,
Yeah,
because
we're recording this on the 31st.
yeah. So
But
this
yeah.
this is at the end of this month. We got a new Monster Hunter. That's really exciting. There's definitely a few other things this year. I actually am kind of looking forward to South of Midnight. I don't know that it's going to be a day one for me either, but I do really like the general look of it, and it seems like it's just going to be kind of a maybe run of the mill adventure game, but one with a aesthetic that is a little bit its own, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Um yeah, I'm looking forward to the Balatro update. I want to like it's gotten so much acclaim now that I think that there's going to be a lot of people looking to see like what is done with this game.
Hmm.
And I know there's probably going to be like new Jokers and things like that, but I feel like with all the attention, you kind of have to figure out something special. So I think that they're capable of making good on that. So it's just a matter of time to see like what actually comes out. Hades 2 should be
Hmm.
coming out. The 1.0
Hmm.
release should be coming out this year. I've really enjoyed my time with Hades 2's early access. I have kind of put it off, hoping that I can wait long enough that when I go back into it, it'll feel fresh again. But right now, I don't have an idea of when the 1.0 is actually dropping, but it'll certainly be this year. Um, uh, oh yeah, there was a Little Gator game DLC announced. Did you see that?
I did not.
Okay,
That's
well
really funny.
you're not attached to Little Gator game as I am,
True.
but Little Gator game got a DLC announced, and it's funny how much they riff on Zelda, because like so much of that game is like we like not to like pull back the curtain too much for someone who hasn't played it, but basically you play as a little kid who grew up with his older sister, um, playing video games and like like playing like games in the backyard or at the playground, based on the video games that the older sister was playing. So like he kind of has like this attachment to video games without actually having played the video games.
Mm-hmm.
So he like makes references not understanding what they are, and a lot of them are for like Zelda stuff. So the DLC is called, I believe, In the Dark, and it's all subterranean, which is to say exactly what Tears of the Kingdom was.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I feel like this is just one big riff on what they did with Tears of the Kingdom. So I'll be, probably following up on that. That was a big deal because it was one of those games that like I was able to get my girlfriend to sit down and really enjoy. Um Morsels. Remember Morsels?
Kinda? Did that never come out?
I don't know. Did it come out? I don't think it came out. It's on my wish list.
Huh.
I would have been told if it came out.
I know I'm still looking forward to 2XKO. Still a bad name,
Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to it. Theoretically, that's
yeah.
going to come out this year.
I hope it does.
At the
I
very
have a
least,
weird
I know there's
feeling.
going to be another alpha soon, so I'm going to
Yeah,
probably try
no.
to play it during that.
God, I hope I get into that one without needing you to give me the pass. What else? Oh, Elden Ring. You want to play Night Rain, Neil? You interested in Night Rain?
I am interested in Night Rain, but more as a curiosity uh than an Elden Ring thing. Like I know it has Elden Ring in the name, but like they very specifically said this is not a sequel, it's kind of its own weird thing.
Right.
And so this seems like FromSoft branching out in a way that maybe they haven't in quite a while,
You know, it would be
given
really
given they found a
disappointing.
formula that worked.
It'd be really disappointing if this was a games as a service version of Elden Ring. And I feel like it might be.
It it seems like it might be, if not a games as a service thing, just like a multiplayer focused version of the fuck, what was the name of that Bloodborne thing where it like had a bunch of different dungeons that you could kind of
The
not
Chalice
endlessly, but
Dungeons.
yeah, the chalice dungeons. I'm wondering if it's going to be like a multiplayer focused challenge dungeons basically as its kind of own executable.
Yeah, but like so much of what was shown was like overworld though.
True.
Well, what else? Oh, Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 are supposed to come out this year.
Oh, I still haven't played 2 or 3.
Yeah, I know. Because you're such a stickler about waiting till things are quote unquote complete.
So I broke my rule.
Mm.
I know. I know. Shame on me. I played a little early access game
What did you play
called
early access, Neil?
Hyper Light Breaker.
You did break your rule.
I know. I know.
Okay, well, why? Why did you break a rule, Neil?
So, a big reason why I broke the rule for Hyper Light Breaker is because it's a multiplayer focused game. And I had some friends who were willing to jump in and check it out with me. Which is like,
Hmm.
okay, if we're doing a little jump into the alpha of this thing and see what the multiplayer is like, that's cool. I have a lot harder of a time jumping into something like Hades where it's single player and I can just play it until I burn myself out. Um, and Hyper Light Breaker is also really early right now. It is earlier than I realized it was being released at. Which is probably a good thing because it means I have a pretty good taste of what I think it's going to be, and I'm not going to touch it for who knows how long. I think they expect it to be in early access for approximately a year, but that probably means more like a year and a half, given how development cycles tend to be.
Yeah.
And they do have a roadmap, like, hey, every 3-ish months they're gonna do like a major content drop on it. And I'm not planning to check it out every 3 months or anything, but it's a really neat game right now. In some ways, I would say it is almost kind of like filling the same space that Risk of Rain 2 might fill as a multiplayer game.
Huh.
You can kind of jump in with a couple of your friends and do what is more or less a run style thing, where you are jumping into this world, uh, waves of dudes kind of appear on you sometimes. You're trying to explore and get items to find stronger weapons, other various types of perks, and then defeating three bosses and a major final boss who's not even in the game yet. Uh, and that's kind of the cycle of a run in that game.
Hmm.
And it feels like you can have that be, a couple hours could be a full cycle. Um, Alternatively, if you fail 4 times consecutively, the cycle is going to reset on you either way.
Oh.
So it's kind of a interesting little bit of risk reward on like staying out in the world longer and the enemies getting more dangerous the longer you're out there. Trying to fight these bosses and get some kind of permanent upgrades to the city, which give you more opportunities to either purchase weapons rather than having to find them and other
It's
stuff
one of
like that.
them's. You
Yeah,
got permanent progression
yeah. It
between
seems
runs.
really neat, and I really like just the feel of it in general, which isn't too surprising. I think Heart Machine has made really good feeling games in the past, and surprise, this one feels pretty good too.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not disappointing you, even though it's an early access. Now, do you see yourself going straight into it when it goes into actual release?
Because I already
Or
have it, that makes it a lot easier to say yes. Um, but it is going to be a little bit dependent on finding friends. Like I do think it is definitely a game that the multiplayer experience seems like where it is going to shine. And in single player, it might be a little bit less interesting.
oh, okay. Well, I did play a new game. And when I say new
Ooh.
game, I mean from 2024, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also early access, so it's technically not even out yet. So technically, I'm playing a game from the future. Um, but no, I got gifted Enshrouded. You remember Enshrouded?
No.
Okay, so Enshrouded is one of them Ark-like games. Let's say it's like an Ark style game, kind of
Oh,
like a
okay.
Pal World. But the thing about this one is it's actually really well optimized. Like, kind of disgustingly so, in the sense that, like, having played or having attempted to play many other games like this, um, like, I was very apprehensive about playing it, but it was free. I got gifted a copy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was pleasantly surprised, and maybe part of this is my new computer. I don't know. But it runs very, very cleanly. One of the last times I actually enjoyed playing a game like this was Valheim, and
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people who really got into Valheim.
but Valheim was not very well optimized. Even though like at the beginning it didn't feel that like it ran poorly, the moment you started to build anything substantial, it was no good. But this game feels pretty fucking good. But it is very much one of them open world, explory, resource gathering, crafting style games that you hate. So, not something that I can recommend. But
Hooray,
I,
not for me.
yeah, um, but it feels really well put together, and there's a weirdly large stake when it comes to lore. Like they put a lot of work into making lore for this game. Like there's a big opening cutscene, which is not typical for this style of a game. Um, So I mean, generally, it's the idea is like you are like you are put in like a stasis chamber, a la Fallout 4, and you wake up and the world sucks, and so
Mm-hmm.
the world has this history of this substance called elixir, and there are like these elixir wells throughout the world where like apparently elixir was this miracle substance that like fixed everything, but in the process of mining it out of the ground, they unleashed like this fungal cloud spore thing called the shroud, and if you spend time in these areas that are shrouded, then you die. So you kind of have like these timed exploration events when you are in certain areas. You have to come back out. It adds a little bit of stakes to otherwise very leisurely exploring and crafting. So, it's good. The combat feels good. It has a skill tree, a lot like Path of Exile. So there's apparently a lot of grinding in this game. But it's one of them's. It's one of them's games. It's fun to play with other people. It's not fun to play by yourself. I imagine. I have not played by myself.
Fair.
But yeah. Have you been playing anything else, Neil?
Yeah, the other game I got through was actually something you gave me called Chance of Sonar, a puzzle game from 2023.
Oh, you beat Chance?
I did. Chance of Sonar is really fucking cool. Um, I'm going to start with the one thing I think is not the best about it. And
Cool,
that
that's so
is
you.
so me. Number one, that's so me. But no, the game as a puzzle game is not particularly challenging. In fact, the kind of structure of it is really neat, and it's all about figuring out language as you are kind of climbing a Tower of Babel. Um, but the way it's kind of structured is you will talk to somebody or read a sign, and you'll see symbols that you cannot decipher. And as you see enough of these symbols, and they go into your journal, at some point it will kind of open up these pages and sketch out like a little image to try to represent what these symbols are. And you can go like, oh, this one I'm pretty sure means follow, and this one looks like somebody walking after another person. So that symbol I should probably slot in here. And when you slot in all of them that are on a page, it reveals them to be like, yes, you are correct about these ones. These are the meanings. And while it's very cool and very satisfying, there's a part of me that kind of wishes it was a little bit less direct about it. Because once you get a bit later in the game and it starts doing way more interesting things with translating between languages, which is super cool and super fascinating and satisfying, every once in a while I would get to a point where it's like, I don't actually know which of these, like, three symbols is the one that will, like, which one of these three symbols is the one I need here. But because I know so much of this language, I can just brute force these three symbols in this one spot and it'll give it to me.
Well,
In
I
a
mean,
way
it's just
that
like
feels
language
a
in real
little bit
life.
cheesy, but like, hmm?
That's how language works in real life, though. Like if you only have three words left in your vocabulary, you just say all three and hope that it works.
Yes, but what I guess the reason it feels a little
Don't
awkward
say
is
yes to
because
that. Don't say yes to that. I was just bullshitting.
the reason it feels a little awkward in the game is because even if you are able to use the symbol in order to progress in these puzzles without without having triggered the hey game, I know what this symbol means thing, you can never have it actually trigger even when you are like brute forcing it, like proving to the game I understand this symbol. It won't give you the prompt to actually unlock it. You have to find it in the world one more time or something. And that can be a little
Oh,
bit frustrating.
yeah. It's
But
a
it's
dissonance between
really,
your own
really cool.
understanding and the confirmation of your understanding by the game,
Hmm.
which is always frustrating. But you completed it.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, how long was it?
Um, Probably like 6 to 8 hours, somewhere in that range. And I kind of did all of it. Um, it's not particularly hard to do, but I think it is very satisfying to do. And it really, when I said Tower of Babel, I really meant that pretty specifically because it really is. If you know a bit about the story of the Tower of Babel, right?
Refresh my memory.
The Tower of Babel is a story about humans building a tower to reach God or something like that. I don't remember if it's to fight God or not, but it pisses God off. And so God destroys people's ability to communicate with each other by giving them all these different languages, and then they can't communicate together and they can no longer do this project together to build this tower because they can't communicate to make it happen the right way.
Ah, right, right.
This
Yeah, no, I know
game
that.
Yeah, this game is really like you are climbing a tower. Each kind of level of the tower, you are going to learn new language, and a lot of what you are doing in the story and trying to do in the story is figure out how to help people learn how to communicate with each other again so that these misunderstandings and problems and segregations of these different peoples with their different languages on each floor of the tower can become more of a whole community for everybody.
And
Um,
then you can go fight God.
you don't really fight God, but
Oh, there's no battle at the end. That would have been
no,
sick.
no, no. It's more. It seems very much like it is inspired by a lot of the stuff with the Tower of Babel, not necessarily trying to reenact the story of it.
Okay. I mean, I guess if it was a language-based game, you wouldn't really fight God. You'd more debate him in an
Yeah,
arena of
go become a
ideas.
debate lord with God.
Yeah. That would not go well. But actually, I'm pretty sure that the Tower of Babel story was like they were trying to reach heaven just generally, and God was like, "You can't go to heaven yet. Like, don't. That's not how that works. You can't just build a tower into heaven." And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah, that's why.
Anyway, it's really cool. If you are somebody who struggles with certain types of puzzle games, this is maybe a good one to jump into because it's never going to force you to look at stuff outside of the game. It gives you like a notebook that it is kind of filling out for you in a sense while you play. It is, I'm not going to say it's handholdy, but it is very smooth for user experience.
In your experience, anyway.
Yeah,
Um. Okay. Would you say that's more like The Witness or more like Tunic?
more. Uh, hmm. I'm going to say more like The Witness, but The Witness is still trying to do something way fucking harder than this game.
Yeah, that's fair. Like you're learning the language in the game, and this one you're kind of documenting the language.
Yeah, like you are learning it, but the game is helping you learn it by being like, "Hey, cool. So you think you know what this means, right? Hint, hint."
Yeah, The Witness is more like going to a place and having to speak the language of people, and maybe this is more like Duolingo.
Yeah, maybe. But that's really the stuff I've been playing. Other than, I guess I could talk about Zenless Zone Zero if you want to hear a little.
You know what? Indulge me, or rather, indulge yourself while I'm here.
Zenless Zone Zero is still really cool. I like it a lot. They did
Can't
a
believe,
chapter 5 which felt like kind of a culmination of a lot of what they spent the last half a year doing.
can't believe this game's in
And
our
I
top 10.
thought it was a pretty satisfying thing that has me actually like invested in the story, which is
Oh,
surprising
what's
considering how
that?
much I thought the story sucked shit on the first like week of playing that game.
Wow. Who would have thought that you did a chapter that culminated on all the plot points and now you want more story? It's almost as if the whole point is to make you want more.
I'm interested now.
Well, good. They did their job. It's a
Yep,
games as a service.
it
Just
is.
saying.
It is definitely a games as a service.
Well, who's the hot new character?
The hot new character right now is a pop idol who has some really weird singing mechanics, and I don't want to hear her song every time I play the game, so I'm not rolling for her.
Oh, you're just gonna abstain, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna get the uh, fire spy lady who's up next.
Oh, you're anticipating the new character before they even come out. That's how you know
Yeah,
you're playing a gotcha game.
that's how I know I'm playing a gotcha game.
Or is she as cool as the rat lady?
Uh, I don't think she's as hyper sexualized as the rat lady.
So no, you're saying no, she's not as cool.
I'll say no, but not for that reason.
Okay.
I haven't gotten the new lady's story stuff yet. I just know she's a spy. She
my
works for
girl
the idol.
my girlfriend hated the trailer for the rat lady.
The trailer for the rat lady was um how do I put this?
She was like, "How did she get her shoe back on? When did she put her shoe back on?" It's It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what you're concerned about, huh? But yeah, I mean, she has a point.
Yeah.
They definitely made some deliberate choices. So
They
there's no foot stuff going on in the Fire Lady spy thing.
no. I don't think anyone has had uh no one else has had a specific kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Directed
Erotic, uh,
directed at a
sexual,
specific kink uh type of
arousing.
trailer
You heard it
since
here
the Rat
first.
Lady.
Neil called the Rat Lady's trailer arousing.
I did not.
Well, I felt
I
like you
said
said it.
targeted at a specific kink is what I said.
Right. The one that you're familiar with, we could say.
I have socks on right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. I mean, I didn't ask. I feel like now you're just
I'm
kind
not
of
getting
being
those feet out there
exhibitionist.
for people to see. You got to pay for that.
Well, there you go, guys.
I'm not
Anyway,
famous enough to have
thanks
a
for
wiki
listening
feet
to
entry.
thanks for
So
listening to the Audio Games podcast, everybody.
Audio Games is hosted and produced by Matthew Lane and Neil Jimenez. Our theme music is Recharging by Gooset. If you'd like to reach out to us, please email us at audiogamespodcast@gmail.com.
If you want more of Neil, you got to pay for his OnlyFans. So, you want to go ahead and plug that now?
Uh, I'm not on OnlyFans, but if I was, it would be that Neil J.
Yeah. Nobody steal that and impersonate Neil. That would be very terrible.
That would be pretty fucked up. As of right now, I can confirm, everybody, I'm not on OnlyFans. If you see me on OnlyFans, it is an imposter.
That's an AI generation of the real Neil.
Yeah, I only have 5 toes, not 6.5. That's how you can tell.
Well, nobody's going to be interested in that. More toes, more hoes. That's what they say.
God, I hope not.
I don't know how else. I don't know what to do now. I don't know how we end this.